This is The Guardian.
Hello and welcome to The Guardian Football Weekly. Spurs beat Liverpool in the Carabao Cup semi-final first leg. 18-year-old Lucas Bergvall giving Ange a vital win. Of course, he shouldn't have been on the pitch when he scored, and Tsimikas wasn't on the pitch. Feels the kind of fair, balanced and equal that all Spurs fans could get behind. Bergvall was brilliant, as were a lot of Spurs players, another 18-year-old Archie Gray and new goalkeeper Antonin Kinski. Some debut after arriving 4 days ago. Liverpool weren't at their best but still had chances, and there's unlikely to be a human on earth who wouldn't still make them favourites in the second leg. And then on to a brilliant FA Cup third round draw. Arsenal, Manchester United, the big one, and then some vintage David v Goliath, Tamworth, Accrington, Morecambe, Salford, Bromley, Harrogate, all with glamour ties. We'll welcome Graham Potter to West Ham on the Old Trafford scale. How poisoned is that chalice? There's all the transfer gossip, a vital update on Rollerberry, your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today, John Brewin, welcome.
Hiya.
Representing Spurs, Chris Paouros, hello.
Good morning, good morning.
And representing Liverpool, Ceylon, Andi Hickman. Hi, Ceylon.
Good morning.
Mike said if you gave me 100 guesses on the score beforehand, 1-0 to Spurs would not have been one of them. I checked. It's Spurs' fourth 1-0 win since Ange took over, which isn't really that many, isn't it? Ceylon and Chris, you were both there. I suppose we'll start with the victors. Chris, how was that for you?
Well, I think firstly, I really hope Rodrigo's okay. It looked quite worrying, and happening so early in the game under no challenge must have been quite scary for his teammates and affected them actually. But I saw his Insta before I went to bed and he was giving a thumbs up from what seemed like a hospital bed. So fingers crossed he's well. Right, so what a debut from Kinski. As you said, Max, 4 days in, a home debut in that atmosphere in a semi-final, and so assured. For the first thing to be for him to knock the ball over the forward's head and the level of control, he looked like he calmed the defence down within seconds.
Are you saying he's better with his feet than Fraser Forster, Chris? Is that what you're suggesting?
And I think that might be why he actually got brought in like this few days in. Archie Gray, what composure, what awareness. And actually, we've just got to remember he's out of position at centre-back and look at what he can do. Radu Dragusin shaves his head before every game, as you can see. It's always so clean, his undercut. And it obviously heading everything away. His positioning for that goal line clearance was absolutely perfect. Jed Spence was excellent again, kept Mo Salah quiet. He was really good at maintaining possession. I read somewhere he won 5 out of 7 duels in the first half, didn't concede a foul. I think we need a full investigation into how this is his third season and is only just playing. And again, out of position. Paouros ball to Solanke for Solanke's assist. What a pass. It's almost like that EFL ball flies a bit differently. Great goal from Solanke. It's a shame that he was marginally offside because he took it so well. But his run to get that ball from Paouros, the way he sort of gathered the ball and played it off to Bergvall for the goal, terrific. Bergvall was absolutely everywhere. He fought for every ball. He thoroughly deserved his goal. Don't come at me with he should have been sent off.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Diaz died for the first yellow card. So in conclusion, Max, just who we are, mate.
Yeah, and that's what we have time for today.
I'm excited.
I mean, we all thought, you're allowed to be. We all thought, Ceylon, that this pod, and even Chris said it in the WhatsApp group, he said, don't give me too much shit today. We just presumed Liverpool would turn up and win. And they just weren't. I mean, they still had the chances actually in this game, but they just weren't quite at it, I thought.
Yeah, I think it was one of those, it was similar to the Man United game in the run-up where all the Spurs fans I knew were saying, oh, this is going to be a whitewash, don't score too many, this is going to be horrible to watch, etc. And the Liverpool fans were going in with confidence as well, right? I think my mate I was with was like, probably 4-0, I reckon. I actually said a bit more cagey, a 2-1. But yeah, I would never have predicted a 1-0 loss. But it wasn't as bad as Sunday. I don't think it was as bad. It didn't feel as sloppy. As you said, I think there were more chances for Liverpool, but there's something not quite right, not clicking. And I think that's inevitable in seasons, long seasons, right? You get to these points where you have a combination of both players being a bit tired, and also other teams working out how to play against them, how to nullify your threats. And that's football. And the test of a good manager is Arne Slot's ability to adapt and find new ways to win, to go forward. So I stupidly listened to a very late night phone in, and I don't think it's like reason to panic at all. I think it's two poor performances in a row against two sides that can show up and would love to beat Liverpool. So it's also a semi-final of a cup, and I'm not worried particularly about the second leg and going to Anfield. It would be very, very hard for Spurs to get a decent result there. Lots of people last night saying, "Oh, we'll get a draw at Anfield and we'll go through," but that's going to be a very, very difficult job.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. Did Spurs play slightly differently? It was interesting there. Ceylon saying, the sign of a good manager is whether they adapt. Can they adapt when people work them out? And Ange's sitting there going, "Well, that's a ridiculous idea." But producer Joel wrote this, and I kind of agree with him. Have we been tricked into thinking they approach things differently just because it was 1-0 and they kept a clean sheet, or were they slightly different yesterday, Tom?
Well, I was watching Arne Slot talk after the game, and he said that he expected this approach from Tottenham, which was to push very hard and very high up the pitch. I suppose one thing is we don't know how they would have played if Bentancur would have lasted the game, but the changes that they made meant that they had a lot of young legs able to run around. If you're talking from Liverpool's point of view, two of their best players this season have been Gravenberch and Curtis Jones, and neither of them really were able to do much. They were nullified, as was Mo Salah, actually. And the thing is, within the Ange plan, if you've got the legs, it can work better, doesn't it? And that's the problem with the Ange plan, is that when it works, it can nullify opponents. It can stop them playing. It can stop them being who they want to be, mate. But it doesn't always happen that way. And he's had his fair share of injuries, his fair share of disasters. I mean, obviously, let's look at that team. And that is still a patched-together team with the greatest footballer in the world, Archie Gray, at centre-half, who just looks, unbelievable, but was able to play even more relaxed than he does normally because they've got a goalkeeper that can control the ball. Can we do the Werner and Kinski gag? Yeah, for those cinephiles.
Please.
It's done now.
Yeah.
I was going to say, they needed to sign, Andy Herzog of Austria in 1990, but, there we go. Andrew's had a tough time of late. Spurs have had a tough time of late. You could say it's very Spursy, to use a phrase I don't particularly like, or a word I don't particularly like, to go well in the cups, to save it all for the cup. It was a great performance from them, and I think they deserve the victory. If we're talking, this balance in the universe that Ange wants, then remember how we used to talk about how decisions balanced out over a season? In this EFL Cup, the decision of offside looks like they didn't have the quality of TV pictures to show he was offside. It was a slightly grainy image, so we don't really know whether he was offside. It's a bit Zapruder. And of course, the non-sending off, that's the type of decision that in the old days, you would have said, that will happen somewhere down. But now, because of all the focus on refereeing, we are now kicking off into, Liverpool's great injustice that they've suffered. Actually, we should applaud Bergvall, who actually, I thought it was funny, at the end went to the referee. It's almost to say thanks, and almost to apologise to Van Dijk.
Sort of said, look, the first one wasn't a yellow. It was like the first one wasn't.
Yeah.
But interestingly, on the laws of the game, it's a bizarre law, but if the ref plays on, he can only go back and book the player if he thinks it's reckless, right? Now, whether you think that was reckless or not, some people will, some people won't. But that seems weird to me. Like, surely you should just be able to go back and book someone if you've played advantage, right?
Okay.
To me, it's an absolute blatant yellow card. The first one is slightly dubious, but I don't know, Ceylon, if you feel totally, if you feel like this was an absolute outrage. I think you'd be within your rights to say he was on the pitch and Tsimikas wasn't, and that doesn't feel the right way round at that moment.
Yeah, I think that's the thing to take issue with. I think I haven't actually seen back the challenge, the first yellow card, because surprisingly it didn't make the highlights. And I was there in the stadium and I could not tell. But it's hilarious because you're sitting in this ground and they're singing "Who's the Scouser in the Blue" for like majority of the game, and then you finish that game and you think Liverpool have been done over by the ref. So refereeing is poor overall. I think we don't need to go down that route.
But also hard, but also very hard. Like that is also
impossible. Yeah. But I do think we need to get past this whole English refs for the English league. Like, it's the best league in the world, and we've got the best players coming from all over the world to play in it. So we therefore should have the best refs from all over the world coming to referee our league. I can't believe that there is a correlation between being English and being the best ref in the world. So on a meritocratic argument purely, I would change that rule.
And that'd be a great idea. Unfortunately, some of the football public's response to foreigners would or the press's response to,
yeah. Do you think people are so frustrated with referees that change could be something that there'd be more?
So you'd have like a Premier League of referees then? Yeah.
Be the best ref in the world. You can come from anywhere in the world, but come and ref the best league in the world. I think it's just bizarre that we still have this rule that you have to be English.
And you're always going to say you've got a shit opinion because you haven't done what my team wanted. So I take your point, but I think even if you've got ostensibly the best referees in the world, you're still going to get people complaining about refereeing.
I mean, there is Jared Gillett, isn't there, the Australian, and there's an American in the EFL at the moment. So, there's a trickle. They're trickling in, Ceylon, just for you.
Should he have been on the pitch? Should he have scored the goal? If the fact that you're not winning the game is coming down to that moment when all the chances that we did have that weren't high enough quality from what we're used to from our front three, from our midfield, they were off it. We were really, really missing, I think, Soboslai. The two last games have shown you that, both in terms of him winning the ball back in high positions to then counter. And I also think we have his ability to play passes through the midfield and set up those forward players. We're missing that, definitely. We can talk about the fact whether he was on the pitch or not. It was a bit unfair not having Costas on there to defend, and it was 11v10 at that moment. But if it's down in that chance and the last 10 minutes of a game, we should have done a lot more earlier than that, I think.
There was a wonderful, we've talked about him a bit, the goalkeeper. I mean, he just blew me away. It was just extraordinary how calm he was about the whole thing. I mean, just almost like he hadn't been there long enough to realise that,
You're at Spurs.
He was making his debut in this game. Yeah, like you're meant to be terrified, mate. Even Vicario's terrifying. But there was this moment after the game, I don't know if you saw it, Chris, or if you've seen it since, where he's hugging his sister and his sister is in like floods of tears. You can't see Kinski's face. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. And just that thing that we sometimes forget about these, and like he's 21, he's a baby, but still, like that journey is extraordinary for him and his family and his friends. And we just occasionally forget that these are all people who've been on a journey. And that moment for him, versus embracing his sister, I burst into tears in a cafe this morning, but I'm not getting a lot of sleep.
Give me tear up thinking about it. It was lovely. And I think the other thing that was nice was that Slavia Prague were all over their Instagram telling him that he was the Slavic king and all these wonderful things, which I've never seen actually from a former team. So, I think it's probably a testament to someone who seems like a really nice fella. Saw a quick post-match interview with him and Dom Solanke as well. And actually, that's the other thing, is like, I'm really here for filling your team with good blokes.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. There was another good post-match. Clive Allen did say to Ange, on a fair and balanced equal day, we would have won 3-0. You see, Ange did laugh because obviously when he wins, he's really chipper, upbeat, the guy we all love. Should we get to VAR live, John? I mean, I was so excited. I was like, I'm excited to see what happens. Stuart Atwell, we're going to hear what Stuart Atwell's voice is like. I agree with like the piercing whistle into the microphone was a mistake.
That was unbelievable.
And I was just thinking, is there any part of him, because the ref's obviously quite serious, is any part of him think it's a time to play it for laughs? To go, hey, good evening, everybody. Whatever happened to pig on onions, Anyone remember Peanuts? I really wanted him to just do some, just some light observational stuff.
Yeah, last order's 10:30. I obviously didn't realise it was going to be the night that we would see this historic occasion. Him mic'd up reminded me of Madonna's 1990 Blonde Ambition tour. Stuart Atwell in a conical bra. We'd have loved to have seen that, but it would have,
absolutely.
Striker pose and all that. But and do you know what? He came out and obviously, if you ever watch NFL, they all have the same voice, don't they? When it comes, it's like holding it's like you're able to do the same generic American voice. Yeah, Stuart Atwell. I've never known what Stuart Atwell spoke like. Does he speak like Mr. Bean? Does he speak like Simon Callow? Does he?
Who's the keyhole guy? Why have I gotten his
Lloyd
name?
Grossman. Yeah,
Lloyd Grossman. That's what I'd like.
That would be amazing. But and he spoke just like a northern bloke. And that's it. And because all referees are northern blokes, aren't they? That's the thing. It's just like sort of random, somewhere in the north guy who sounded like when you pull into on a motorway and you've got to pay, like one of those.
Yeah.
But it's like it just sounded like you're in a petrol station or something. Just really sort of matter of fact, and can you move your car there, please? That type of. It just, Do you reckon now? Because referees we hear have an ego. That's the when we hear from inside the PGMOL and some of their weekends away. Do you reckon there's some that are working on the voice now? Do you reckon that we are going to have the Simon Callow of the VAR?
I hope they keep it on now for those moments where when there's sort of like a bit of a tussle and you can see the ref being like, back off, move away, shut up, leave it. Just turn the mic on at those moments and get those bits in as well, I think.
A massive letdown. And there was a small hope. It was just a massive letdown. There's a small hope that it would be that it would be mic'd up like in rugby. So actually when you're moving about the game, like managing the game, you might hear a bit of it. Now that would have been interesting.
But hang on, you don't want that. You don't want that when you're at the ground, huffing and puffing, Craig Pawson just breathing.
I go with my 14-year-old nephew and he was just like, they could have just written that on the screen. Why did we have to like have our eardrums pierced by the whistle? And then just saying, he was offside.
They do it in the A-League in Australia, and they're much slicker, actually. So they will get better. And actually, I think it probably is, on balance, quite useful. But, but at the same time, you kind of want it for is that a penalty right at the end where Kulusevski kicks Curtis Jones? Or, why is Bergvall still on the pitch? But, I suppose then you just say they'll be talking about every single moment. We haven't spoken to a Liverpool fan about the contract situation for these three. Just how are you feeling generally?
Frustrated at the club. It's definitely mismanagement of three of your absolutely integral best players and people who have been so important to the success of everything that we've done and the thing that we've built over the last few years, and to not have given them offers that were appropriate, that they wanted to sign at the right time, I think, is really frustrating. I don't really buy into this whole Trent, I guess the focus on Trent and Mo, of how they're using the contract. I think they've been put in difficult positions. I think they both would have stayed at the club if they'd been offered the right thing at the right time. And I completely understand the allure of Real Madrid for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Being a player like he is, growing up and playing for Liverpool since you were a tiny kid, winning everything that you can win, and wanting the next challenge in life. I completely understand that. And I think I have a lot of empathy for him in terms of how he's being positioned right now. And I think it's quite an impossible job for the team around him I guess he wants to leave. He wants to leave, matter of fact. He wants to go to Real Madrid, is what we're all being told. And he also wants to leave in a good way, and he doesn't want to be hated by Liverpool fans. And I think good Liverpool fans won't hate him for it. I think they understand it. I think their frustration is at the club. It was beautiful when his number was up and he was coming on. There was boos from the Spurs fans, but massive cheers from the away end. And then they sang Alexander Arnold's song as he came on, as they should. Yeah, and I think it's just a pretty tricky situation for him.
I suppose to play devil's advocate, I don't know how much money they're asking for, right? So they could be asking for the earth, and then it's not really the club's fault, I guess, or it's less of the club's fault. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's about when they sign as well, right? As in, like, and the length of the deals that they signed and at the time. And I think having a bit of foresight that they are going to be some of the best players, and whether they feel that they've been undervalued in those contracts, those previous contracts, like they are completely integral. And Mo Salah is probably, well, apart from these last 2 games, his run of form is probably one of the best players. He is, well, in my opinion, the best player in the world right now, the best player, attacking player in the form that he was in before Manchester United. And he probably doesn't feel like whatever he's been offered has been reflective of that.
The understanding I have of it is that Liverpool have a very flat payment structure apart from Salah. Salah is on an enormous wage anyway compared to the rest of them. His wage, obviously, on the next contract. His thing appears to be wage is big, but length of contracts, as far as I understand. The thing is, if they want to keep Trent, to move Trent into that bracket means they'll have to move other players into the bracket, because other players will say, hang on, if Trent Alexander-Arnold's on that, then I've got to move into that bracket. I think Virgil van Dijk probably will stay. I think that's the idea. But again, that's again for contract. The problem you've got with the Trent Alexander-Arnold thing is there are certain agitations being made by, well, okay, I'll name him, Jamie Carragher, he has written a couple of things and said a couple of things. In fact, I was watching Sky, you know, when they do this sort of like Sky almost late nights that follow the Soccer Sunday that goes on all night where they're debating. And just this idea that he can't understand why Trent wouldn't want to stay at Liverpool to be like Jamie Carragher, to be beloved around.
Because he's a lot better than Jamie Carragher was.
well, that's you're absolutely correct. Yes, and he would never have gone to Real
Come on,
Madrid.
Ceylon, you'll remember those. You remember those phone-ins saying, "Surely we can get Jamie Carragher into England's midfield." You don't remember those? I remember those distinctly.
But the issue is that a great point, Ceylon, is that, and we had this with Gareth Bale, who's significantly older. Is Gareth Bale was like, I want to go to Real Madrid because Real Madrid are the superstar club and have been since the early 2000s. That if you get the chance to join Real Madrid and you're a footballer, yeah, but why not join Real Madrid? You know, that's the Hollywood option. That's the toppermost of the poppermost.
It's not what I'd do.
But Liverpool think they're Hollywood, whereas Gareth Bale comes from Spurs, and you go, oh yeah, well you could do better. Whereas when you're Jamie Carragher, you're like, nothing's better than Liverpool.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's just a different proposition. It's a different proposition. Like, you can stay at Liverpool for your entire career. You can be absolutely adored. You can have your name everywhere. But that is one option for a football career. And if that's what you want and that's important to you and being a one-club man, then do it and it's beautiful. But if that's not actually who you are at your core and what you want from your life and your football career, then don't do it inauthentically. If he's young and you're growing up in this age where you're looking at all the best players in the world, and you're probably, in your opinion, and all, you know, imagine like all the games of FIFA Trent played as a child. He was probably Real Madrid or Liverpool, right? Like, this is that to then get this offer of you've been in this city your whole life playing for this club. You are now like the whole world thinks you're good enough to go and play for this idealized football club in Spain. I wouldn't do it, but for him, it's something that like he's always been on that pedestal. I completely understand why you want to go. Well, I wouldn't do it. One club person, you know, 6 seasons at Village Hamlet. I'll retire there.
Maybe it's a sign why I didn't make it, because I wasn't playing FIFA as Real Madrid, but I did take Altrincham to Division 1 and treble champions on the Amstrad, which was no mean feat. I mean, that whole point. I think the interesting thing is, because Trent is a Scouser, and he's one of your own, that you kind of want him to be like you as a fan, and it's just his job. It's like just totally different. And like, I think most people listening to this understand that it's it's not what you are anymore. Like, you know, and Jamie Carragher's an Everton fan. Like, Carragher should understand he's an Everton fan, right? But still, you know, so like.
And you never want to get to the end of your career and sit back and go, I wish I'd done that when I had my chance. And he's won everything that there is to win at Liverpool. So I don't want him to go. I'm not saying this because I think I'm saying this because I understand it, and I think a lot of the crap that he's been getting isn't particularly fair.
Paul Merson always used to say, you know, when your grandkid's sitting on your knee, you want to say, look, I won these things, and you're just like, grandchildren just want sweets from their grandparents. They do not give a shit. Whatever you've achieved in your career, they could not give a shit, could they? Just give me some sweets and some presents. Anyway, that'll do for part 1. Part 2, we'll preview the FA Cup third round. Welcome to part 2 of the Guardian Football Weekly. It's a great third round draw, I think. Arsenal Man United is, of course, the big game. Jamie Jackson writing in the Guardian, John, that Man U will listen to serious offers for any of the squad. I'm sure they've said this before when Ten Hag was there, including Kobbie Mainoo, Garnacho, Højlund. United are not actively seeking to offload the trio. There is recognition from Big Sir Jim that the club have been poor sellers. Is it a non-story? Because,
Well, he's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong. But, every player's available. If someone bids the right amount, everyone is available, right? What's this story?
I think the big surprise is that, say, Garnacho and Mainoo would be on that list, particularly Mainoo, who hasn't played very well this season until the Liverpool game, I should say, has struggled a bit in coming back from the Euros. I think you've got this idea that Amorim arrived, has worked with these players, and he's like, I can work with only about 4 of them. How do I get money? We're in this profit and sustainability thing of pure profit. Garnacho, you would expect you could sell maybe to Atletico Madrid for 60 million or whatever. And then, Mainoo might be another. And Chelsea are always trying to buy young English talent, aren't they? Though, would Mainoo get into Chelsea's midfield? Yes, just about. Though, as a Manchester United fan, as someone from the area, it would be a shame to see someone Mainoo leave at 20 or whatever he is. It's not great. But this is the problem that Manchester United have got themselves into, and not just Sir Jim. The Glazers have bequeathed this legacy of, actually, Jim, when you take over, we're in the sell to buy era, and that's what he's got to do. And also, if you start sacking managers, or if you don't sack a manager and you give him 250 million to spend, and he spends it badly, that's the situation you get yourself in. It's funny, isn't it? Man United, actually, there should be a positivity after the Liverpool performance, but there's always this sort of cloud of just doom and nastiness and. Oh.
But that story as well, all I thought of it is that can't be great for team cohesion.
Well, no, I think that's gone out the window a few years ago. But but I agree with you, Chris. Yeah. I mean, there's 2 ways of looking at that. There is this idea that you're all playing for your futures is a really old style way of did you want to stay at this club? There's a lot of people probably don't want to stay at that club. They want to go on to the next place. They want to go to Real Madrid, but maybe that isn't happening. Maybe Garnacho could go to Real Madrid. It is a problem, isn't it, when you've built the squad as badly as Manchester United have, and then money was always your way out of things, but it isn't the way out of things anymore. And actually, money not being the way out of things might mean they might do something sensible for once, but we can't count on that, can we?
Coach their players, yeah. What would be interesting is if Man United were to win this game, just the impact it would have on Arsenal, given their sort of little depth that they're in. The EFL has hit back after Mikel Arteta's comments on the match ball, which we discussed yesterday. It's disappointing they didn't get a statement from the ball itself. That's what I would have done. But the EFL said on Wednesday, all clubs play with the same ball, and it had not received any similar complaints, adding, as is required throughout the professional game, the Puma ball used in this season's Carabao Cup and in EFL competition since 21-22 is tested in accordance with the FIFA Quality Programme for Footballs. That is a thing, the FIFA Quality Programme for Footballs. And it meets the FIFA Quality Pro standard. In addition to the Carabao Cup, the same ball's been successfully used in other major European leagues, including both Serie A and La Liga, and our 3 divisions in the EFL. No wonder Cambridge players are just punting it out of the ground all the time. All clubs play with the same ball, and we have received no further comments of this nature following any of the previous 88 fixtures which have taken place in this season's Carabao Cup. Ceylon, what are Dulwich Hamlet playing with? Is it the same ball every time? Do you know?
Yeah, we send our balls off every August to get signed off by FIFA as well, actually. So. Post them off to Europe, and then they come back the week later, and then they've all got a big tick on them, and then we're allowed to play with them. Yeah. I do... there is a bit more context to the Arteta thing, wasn't there? Like, he mentions it very briefly in, like, when he's like, the details weren't there, the ball wasn't, like, whatever, and then carries on, and then a journalist came back to him to then ask him about the ball, which was then the headline, right? So I did feel from a little bit, and also, like, when you, I don't know, just don't. So from an Arteta point of view, just don't say it. Like, you can think that, and I think it's fair. Like, sometimes we come in from games and we're like, that ball is an absolute nightmare. Then like, I'm pinging it and it's just, I'm over hitting passes, I'm under hitting passes, whatever. But then just don't say it in the press, because you know what's going to happen.
We did get a lot of feedback from Arsenal fans saying Arteta was specifically asked about the ball by a journalist. We don't hate Arsenal. It is important to point that out. I mean, you wonder, should the FA just drop in like a medicine ball just for kickoff for Arsenal on Sunday? Just drop in, or like a flyaway, where a shoot size 5 that just, goes everywhere.
Or like a beach ball, like on the beach when you the inflatable balls, and they just zip through the air.
Anyway, it was funny. Villa West Ham. West Ham finally confirmed the news that everyone knew already by announcing that Julian Lopetegui was sacked yesterday afternoon. He did take training in the morning. The first half of the 24-25 season has not aligned with the club's ambitions, and the club has therefore taken action in line with its objectives. Also parted company with his backroom staff, head of performance, head analysts, fitness coach, technical coach. So they really didn't align, did it? The board would like to thank them all and wish them every success for the future, as they have to say. Apparently Tim Stuyton, what's he, the director of football?
Sporting director.
He may also leave, but Graham Potter signed a 2.5-year deal. We're pleased to see Graham Potter back in the top flight, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a good manager, and it's weird that he's been out of work for so long when you've seen people going to different places. I mean, like, the thing for West Ham is the manager the issue? I think is probably the question that I would ask. But I mean, I guess we'll see.
Have you seen that there's a 6-month break clause in the contract?
What, both ways, is it?
Yeah, that's what I don't know. Is it Graham Potter has said, I want a 6-month break clause in case this club is an absolute shambles and I'm miserable? Or it's like when you sign a lease on a flat. It's like, well, if there's damp, I'll move out in 6 months and find somewhere else. But like maybe it was Potter's side that asked for the 6 months.
If they find out that, Fabianski or Paqueta has black mold growing and they just say, I can't work with these players. What about you, John? I mean, there aren't that many English managers in the top flight. I don't know if that's something that exercises you or not. Obviously, a lot was made over Tuchel's appointment. Maybe the third?
No, not right. I mean, one of the other English coaches is our hero, Sean Dyche, of course. And,
of course.
And I don't think anyone's going to tip him for the England job in future, sad as that is. Graham Potter's an interesting case, isn't it? Because he rose very quickly. He was at Swansea very briefly. Brighton, he got a lot of plaudits. And then, as someone who worked on the analytical side, Chelsea's new owners, and they were new owners, fell in love with the idea of this guy prepared to work with his technical approach. But anyone that had watched Brighton would know that they weren't very good at winning games. They drew a lot of them. And the football they played was not that exciting. And Graham Potter himself is a very well-dressed man, quite a good-looking man, but he's not that exciting. He's a very polite man. In fact, he's a really nice guy. And at West Ham, okay, what have we got at West Ham? West Ham got rid of David Moyes, who's been their most successful manager since John Lyall, and he left because it was felt that the club needed to move on to a more exciting era. So they got an even less exciting manager in Lopetegui, who is a fairly defensive Spanish coach. And now they're going to get Graham Potter. I don't think Graham Potter is going to bring back the West Ham way. But the West Ham way, when was the last time we saw that? Maybe Slaven Bilic when Payet was about for, say, 6 months when they played sort of off-the-cuff football. But this is not an era for off-the-cuff football. They'll go down if they play off-the-cuff football. So you bring in a technical coach like Graham Potter, who I believe is well known to the club, and they've been stalking each other for quite a while. He's a good manager. They'll probably finish mid-table. Are West Ham fans satisfied with mid-table? In the heart of hearts, probably most of them are. And then some of them won't like it, but that's just West Ham, that's just a football club. He's a fairly middling appointment, isn't he? He gives good presentation. My God, he can do a flow chart. He's the type of guy that football clubs like, but the combination of him and David Sullivan, of course, who is still the main decision maker, that's the interesting one. And that the mention of the sporting director, that's a relationship that hasn't gone well because he and David Moyes didn't hit it off. Then there was his story on Monday that Lopetegui had locked him out of the training ground. That he wasn't allowed to go there.
He was just banging on the...
And then Lopetegui
just banging on the gates.
Yeah. Yeah, just like the securities weren't allowed to let him in. And then, and now he's gone. Or now Lopetegui's gone, and starting we don't know. West Ham, it's always interesting in a certain sense. There's always something going on. I'm slightly surprised they've sacked a manager so early in the season, because it's not always been David Sullivan's raison d'etre, does it?
Yeah. It's always interesting, apart from on the pitch, it isn't often that interesting. I would say, that's sort of the least interesting part of what sort of West Ham deliver over a season. Anyway,
it's watching them play.
We mentioned Spurs and Liverpool. They both have the potential to be the story this weekend. Spurs going to Tamworth, Liverpool home to Accrington Stanley. I mean, this is all about the milk advert. Are we all across the milk? I don't know when it stopped being on telly. Ceylon, I guess is it before your time?
Yeah.
The advert for milk.
Someone older than me has told me about this before, but I can't recall it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's because, it's
definitely in our wheelhouse, Max.
It is. It's one little boy, and he's drinking milk, and you can only see one Scouser, and there's another little boy, and he's drinking milk, and the guy off camera goes, "Milk? That's disgusting." And he says, he says, "What Ian Ross drinks?" And they go, Ian Rush, I'll stop being a Scouser, and he says, if I don't drink milk, I'll only be good enough to play for Accrington Stanley. And he goes, Accrington Stanley, who are they exactly? And then in Soccer AM, whenever we played Accrington Stanley, we'd have like that big sound effect. We'd just go, Accrington Stanley, who are they exactly?
Who are they?
And now they play each other at Anfield. So great news for milk, I would say.
Great for milk, and good to rehash the advert and get a whole new generation of milk supporters on board.
So. Is milk good or bad? I mean, I'm not sure where milk is on the culture wars. I know some milks are bad, but milk
is a big deal in the culture wars.
Yeah, I know.
Pasteurised, unpasteurised, like a big deal.
Oh God. Okay. I don't.
Yeah, don't ask RFK Jr. about milk.
Okay, well, he wasn't my first port of call. I'll be brutally honest. But anyway, some of my best friends are milk. Some of my best friends are milk. I don't really cancel because of milk.
The one thing to say is about Accrington Stanley is a club with deep roots in Liverpool and Merseyside. A lot of the players and the staff and even the ownership are from the Liverpool area, and that they used to. Pretty much, I think they train in Liverpool and then go and play in Accrington. It's always had that big link. So it will be, for want of a better phrase, a good Scouse love in that game.
It will,
so,
yeah.
Good.
Morecambe go to Chelsea. Chelsea been linked with re-signing Mark Gay or recalling Trevor Chalobah. Either way, Palace won't be too pleased with that. Manchester City at home to Salford City. City versus the class of '92, John. That's good, isn't it?
Well, it is. But it's like the real Manchester derby, because those in Salford, which is in Greater Manchester, don't consider themselves to be in Manchester. So it's some sort of freedom fighting thing.
It's a Lancashire hot pot. Could we call it that? Could you say that?
Well, Salford people are very, very insistent that they are from Salford and not Manchester.
Yeah. But is that still Lancashire or?
No, they're just from Salford. I mean, like this. It's a bit. Yeah, where you're from, Salford, as in Salford. Right. There's nothing beyond
Salford people. Yeah. Can we be? You can't be anti-Salford. You're allowed to say that sort of thing, John.
My parents met in Salford.
Oh, how beautiful.
So there you go.
How lovely.
Yeah, there you go. So,
John Brewin, made in Salford.
Leeds Harrogate is proper Yorkshire, isn't it? Could you get, that's a great Yorkshire game, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's posh.
Exactly, isn't it?
It's posh against Metropolitan.
It's Tesco versus Waitrose, that all day, every day of the week.
Yeah.
It's actually booths. The Yorkshire Supermarket.
Is it booths?
Booths. It's like a level up.
Very
from
good.
Waitrose.
Yeah.
Stop it, is it?
Yeah, booths.
Right,
if you can ever get yourself to a booths, it's a beautiful experience.
Okay, well, that's good to know, isn't it?
To move on a footballer line from that, Prestbury, which is the Cheshire village where Rooney used to live and a lot of the footballers live, they got a booths to show that they were moving up in the world, you see. So
there we are. Bromley go to St James's Park to play Newcastle. Plymouth go to Brentford. Everton versus Peterborough. It could be Ashley Young against his son Tyler Young, which should be absolutely amazing, wouldn't it? And I was thinking about this, like, what happens if they, do you fly in 2-footed against your son? Do you think yes, Ceylon?
I think your son goes in against your dad. Yeah, definitely. If your dad's Ashley Young, you're going in 2-footed, definitely.
Do you reckon?
There's got to be some Oedipal stuff going on there.
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to analyse that one.
But then, like, what if there's like, if like your teammate headbutts your dad? Do you go and like? Do you go and who are you pulling away, and who are you saying? Because if somebody headbutted my dad, I would come to his defence.
I guess the response would be probably a good reflection on how Tyler has experienced parenting over the last time of years. Yeah. Whether if he backs him, you'll see. They've got a beautiful relationship. If he doesn't back him, then ask some questions.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I think fascinating to see. Swansea home to Southampton as well as another possible giant killing, if we could call it that. Anyway, all those guys to be played the weekend commencing, whatever this weekend is. And that'll do for part 2. We'll do any other business in part 3. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. Bit of big international managerial news. Didier Deschamps will step down after the 2026 World Cup. Philippe will be doing cartwheels, despite the trophies that he's won. He never really believed in him. Meanwhile, Patrick Kluivert has been appointed the new manager of where? Anybody know? International.
Oh, I saw this.
I'm going to need to have a country, Ceylon. I can't take that as an answer.
South Korea.
Indonesia.
Yes.
Oh, there we are. Hopefully we'll speak to Paul Watson about the state of Indonesian football in the next international break. Son, you wanted to talk about Paul Barber joining Football Beyond Borders. Tell us.
Yes. Paul is the current chief executive and deputy chairman at Brighton. And we have just appointed him as our new non-exec chair, so our chair of trustees. And we're absolutely delighted. Yeah, we announced it this week. It was a really lovely interview with Ed Aarons in The Guardian about why this is important to Paul. And we're really lucky, I think, to have got Paul to lead us through the next few years. He's someone who has a brilliant reputation in football. He kind of combines, excellent high standards for his club and how he's kind of built Brighton and taken them from League One all the way up into the Premier League, and not just kind of sat with being a newly promoted Premier League team, but always pushing over the last however long they've been in the Prem, right? And trying to push for top half and push for Europe. And I think not just resting on your laurels is a wonderful thing. And doing those things on a bit of a tighter budget than other teams, there's so much that we can learn from in terms of running and leading a charity at scale. And
investing in the women's team as well, hasn't he? They've been Brighton.
Yeah, they're going to have the purpose-built stadium, first club to do that. So there's that side of things in terms of what you want from a leader, but then there's also his personal connection to what we do, his focus on relationships. We're all about young people having access to a trusted adult through their time in secondary school, and football's a brilliant way to do that. And he talks in that interview really beautifully about him being a teenager when his parents split up, and how that kind of led him down one path, and actually it was football that really helped him stay on the right track and do well in school. And so I think he's spent a lot of time with our team. He's spent a few days in schools, met a lot of our young people, and we're really, really excited about where he's going to take us.
Sure. And just, there was a lot of assumed knowledge in that question, which is some people listening will not know who Football Beyond Borders are, that you work for them, etc. So just give people that background.
Yeah, so Football Beyond Borders, we are an education charity. We work across London and the South East, Birmingham and the West Midlands, and then Manchester and Integrated Manchester, and a little bit of Merseyside as well. And our whole vision is of a country where every young person has a trusted adult through their side in adolescence. And we think there's about 1 million young people who don't have that at the moment, and therefore aren't on track to get their GCSEs and finish mainstream education. So our job is to come in, use football as the initial hook, build the relationship, and support that young person to thrive in school, get their GCSEs in English and maths. Paul's going to be our new chair for the next few years. So we're really excited.
That's great. And how's Dulwich Hamlet going? I saw you played at the Abbey. That's great surface there, isn't it?
Max, it was beautiful. It was beautiful to play at that stadium, and we won 2-0. It was brilliant to get the win. It's a mixed season. It's a newly promoted season for us. So we've had some really good results and we've had some poorer results. And at the moment, we're getting a bit battered by the weather conditions. So we've got a friendly tonight against Charlton under-21s, who I don't know if any of those players will be prepping for a big FA Cup fixture this Sunday against Chelsea. Maybe some of them might get a call up onto the bench. So we've got that tonight, and then not too many games left in this side of the season, but we will see. Big fixture for us this month is going to Norwich away, so hopefully get a result there.
All right. Nathan's been in touch to say, Max, I leapt for my phone at the mention of my town, Bury St Edmunds, on yesterday's pod. I'm sad to report that Rollerberry, which is, just for those who weren't listening yesterday, where I learnt to roller skate, is no more, having closed in 2001. The building has been demolished and is now a block of flats. This also means the nightclub Brazilia's is no longer, which may come as sad news to many listeners.
I went to Brazilia's when I was about 19. Is it not there anymore? Yeah.
Was it a good night?
I had a mate who lived in Bury St Edmunds. Yeah, I remember there was WKD and Mad Dog 2020 involved.
Oh, God. What a terrible night. I mean, that is such a bleak night, isn't it? Oh, the Smirnoff Ice years were not good. Anyway, he says, on the off chance that this is read out on the pod, please accept the customary thanks to all of you for the excellent work you do. I've listened for many years. It's number one on my pod list every week. As an Ipswich Town fan, Liam Delap for England, I look forward to the debate next summer as to whether Thomas Tuchel left it too late to sub off an ineffective Harry Kane for Liam Delap as England stumble past the ageing Croatians. All the best. Thank you, Nathan. And Stuart says, having just listened to your Christmas show, I've realised that I was not the only person to blag my way into the press box for Cambridge's FA Cup quarter-final game against Crystal Palace in 1990, as my dad did. At the time, I was working as a sports reporter for the now defunct Kentish Times, primarily covering Gravesend and Northfleet, as they were known then. But as a Palace fan desperate to get to the game, I used the cover of the Kentish Times, having a Bromley edition, to snag 2 tickets for myself and a friend. I'm sorry to say that I rather disgraced myself by standing and punching the air when Jeff Thomas's bobbled shot trickled in. As a supposed professional, I should have been bound by Plato's advice in the Republic concerning the golden mean, the desirability of living between the two extremes of joy and despair. But as we both know, FA Cup quarterfinals are as rare for clubs like ours as seeing a man reading philosophy at a football game. Best, Stuart. Thank you, Stuart. Thanks to everyone who gets in touch. The email address, as always, is footballweekly@theguardian.com. And that'll do for today. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Chris.
Nice to see you, Max.
Yeah, come on, you Spurs. Like I said, you're always smiling, but you could legitimately smile for this pod. I suspect if we put the same team together in a month's time, then Ceylon will be smiling. But you never know. Thank you, Ceylon.
Thank you, guys. Nice to see you.
Cheers, John.
Thanks for having me.
Football Weekly is produced by Joel Grove. Our executive producer is Phil Maynard.
This is The Guardian.